The following podcast is brought to you by the Crime Prevention 101 Safety Store, your one-stop shop for personal safety. Come by and browse at crimeprevention101.com.
Welcome to Crime Prevention 101, the podcast with an optimistic perspective on a sober subject. The views and ideas expressed on this program are strictly those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the host, associate participants, or sponsors. Now, here's your host, crime prevention specialist Susan Bartlestone.
Oh, baby. And hello, everybody. Now, I got a question for you to think about. I'm going to read you something, and I want you to tell me, in your own little mind, would you call the following scenario a rape? And by the way, the names have been changed to protect the innocent. Ken and Barbie had dated steadily throughout one school term at a local college, and that's about 6 months, I believe. But they hadn't had intercourse yet. One Saturday night, they decided to stay in Ken's dorm room and watch a movie on TV. They had a little wine, they smoked some pot, had some food, had some snacks, potato chips, the Doritos, whatever. At the end of the movie, the evening turned romantic, and Ken and Barbie were both turned on. After a while, Ken started trying to take off Barbie's clothes, and Barbie tried to stop him, saying that she was not ready to go all the way yet. Ken persisted despite Barbie's protests and replied that he was too turned on to stop. Ken went on to have intercourse with Barbie, and she just lay there and cried. This is Susan Bartlestone. Welcome to what I like to call the Universal Dojo, the place we can all come to learn about safety. My partner in crime prevention, Lydia Perez, is here with me today.
Hey, everyone. Hey. Welcome to the podcast.
Lydia is the technical whiz around the dojo, my darlings. All right. Now, Lydia, we got quite a few comments about the date rape portion of our last podcast, the Valentine's Day special on dating safely, didn't we? We got the emails. We got the comments.
Yes, we did. Some of our listeners asked for a more in-depth discussion of date rape. And since date rape is a historical problem, I think the topic deserves a deeper dive during Women's History Month. So this podcast is where we're going to address the question Susan just asked. Was that typical dating scenario a rape? Plus, we're going to give you some more practical date rape prevention tips, talk about angel shots, and tell you about a device that can detect if someone has spiked your drink.
Yes. Now, first what we're going to do is we're going to play the date and acquaintance rape portion of last month's podcast very shortly. And then we're going to pick up after that. But first, we got a message from our sponsor, and we're going to be right back with some practical tips about date rape prevention and that terrific product that Lydia was telling you about that's going to be fabulous for all you active daters out there.
If you're feeling insecure or apprehensive about your safety in the world today, and you should be, if you're looking for the best pepper spray, the best tasers, or alarms, or innovative personal safety devices, if you're looking for ebooks to help you heal from trauma, to deal with bullies, to learn self-defense, or whatever concerns you, the Safety Store is where nationally recognized crime prevention specialist Susan Bartlestone has curated the products she recommends and uses herself. Tons of free safety advice is available if you need immediate help. And while you're there, be sure to get your free copy of Susan's guide, Keeping Yourself Safe, All-Time Top Tips. That's the Crime Prevention 101 Safety Store at crimeprevention101.com.
Okay, let's go right to our previously recorded segment on date or acquaintance rape.
Hey, Lydia. Now, the last item that I want to talk about today is the possibility of date rape as a result of online dating. So we've kind of moved from the lighter side of the dating to the serious, and now to the very, very serious. And a lot of people think they know what date rape is, and maybe you do as well. I don't think they really have a real true idea of what it is. So date rape is also called acquaintance rape, and they're usually lumped together, but they are not the same thing. Both are defined as forced or coerced sex with or without the assistance of wanted or unwanted drugs. And that's very important because it's almost always involved in these date rapes, some kind of drugs or alcohol or drugs. And alcohol is the most common date rape drug, by the way. It's considered that.
Yeah.
Couple of statistics. Most rape victims are females raped by males. That's about 79.6%. 1.4% of victims are men. Perpetrators can be same sex. It's not the most common are females raped by males, but it does happen a great deal within the same sex communities. The stats are not so good on that. That's why I don't have really good ones, but it definitely is out there. And it does happen there. Mm-hmm. Date rape occurs between partners, ex-partners, boy or girlfriends, ex-boy or ex-girlfriends, and or casual dates. And that's about 51% of the time with the date rape.
That's the majority, if you think about it.
Actually, no. The majority of the rapes are acquaintance rapes. Well, that is acquaintance rapes. Yeah, that is the majority. That's what acquaintance rape is. Occurs between acquaintances, but not just partners, mm-hmm. friends of friends, friends of the family, bosses, co-workers, or the guy that delivers your groceries. And that's about 40% of the time. So 51% of the time it is a date or an ex-husband, wife, partner, mm-hmm. commonly.
It's someone you know. It's almost someone you
know. Overwhelmingly, as opposed to being raped by a stranger. That's maybe 20% of rapes are stranger rapes. The majority of rapes are perpetrated by someone that is known to the victim in some way. And I don't know exactly how well you might know the person that packs up the deliveries at your grocery store, but it's not someone that you've never seen before. It's not a total...
Right. It's not a totally unknown person. That's actually a scary one, though, right? If you think about it, if you're home alone, you order groceries, mm-hmm. you just don't know. You don't know who you're opening the door to. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting one.
That's a whole other show, is how to be safe in your
I know.
home. And you know what? I think we're going to plan for that show because it's important. It's one of the things people ask me. What do I do if someone breaks into the house? So believe me, I got stuff for you to do. All right. Tips are on the website, too, by the way. All right, one more statistic on this. 1 in 5 girls will fall victim to rape or attempted rape before they reach 25. 42% occurs before the age of 18. So this crime, date or acquaintance rape, is really prevalent in high schools, colleges, and the young single dating scene. Also very, very scary. Now, I've got a tip sheet called Enduring Betrayal, Date and Acquaintance Rape. It's on the safety tips page in the website. Please be sure to take a look at that. And I want you to look at the featured product in the safety store this month. It's the Date Rape Drug Test Coaster, and they also make test strips. Now, sometimes drugs are used to ensure sexual compliance rather than force. And remember the Cosby case? That was the whole case, is that he allegedly, drugged these women mm-hmm. to the point where they were unconscious and raped them. Mm. So these so-called date rape drugs are slipped into a person's drink, and they can become unconscious with some of them even after a small sip, 1 or 2 small sips. And an example of a date rape drug, they call them roofies. Rohypnol is the technical word for it. GHB, which is gamma hydroxybutyrate. Ketamine, which was a horse tranquilizer, I believe, and I don't know if they still use it for that. Ecstasy, it's well known. People used to take that in the clubs, and in a small amount, I guess you dance very well, but it can also knock you out.
You dance very well. That's funny.
Well, they take them and they dance, But,
yeah. No. I get how you associate it.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. Mm-hmm.
But trust me, you could become unconscious on ecstasy and not know what you're doing and be set up for this kind of assault. You could also, prescription painkillers have been used, sleeping pills have been used. The key is that these date rape drugs are colorless, odorless, and flavorless. You just don't know. Now, one of the things, Lydia, we've always advised people, never leave your drink
unattended.
Amen. Right? You've heard that, right? Mm-hmm. And by the way, that's also your soda. Not everybody's drinking. You go to a party, you go to a bar, you get your club soda or your Diet Coke. You're standing around the bar, you get up to dance, you go to the bathroom, you leave your drink there because obviously you're not going to take it with you when you go to the bathroom. Yuck. And when you come back, there's a possibility someone could have slipped something into it. You also need to be suspicious if you're at a house party and there's a punch bowl. Those are known to be spiked. So this coaster it fits in a pocketbook or a pocket, and they have also test strips. And this will detect the presence of ketamine and GHB, which are two of the most popular date rape drugs. You just, when you come back from wherever it is you've left your drink, take a couple of drops and put it on the coaster or on the strip. And if it turns pink, it means there's been ketamine put in it. If it turns green, it means it's GHB. And if it turns blue, there's some other suspicious substance that was put into your drink.
I was going to ask you that. It's like, is it only testing for two or other? Because you mentioned there were a variety of them. And so I'm glad it's covering. So anything that turns blue is the quote unquote other category.
Right. It will definitely let you know there's something if it can't identify what it is. One of the things that we say is if you have to leave your drink and you don't have your coaster with you, or you're really not sure what blue means, order a new drink.
Why go through all that? Just order a new drink. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't take any chances with it. It's good to know that somebody slipped something in there because you want to get your butt out of that party or out of that bar or whoever it is that you're with because they're doing something that you're not going to be happy about. But just to be safe, get a new drink. These, as like I said, these are small. They'll fit into a pants pocket. You know, guys carry them too. They cost about $1 per coaster. The strips come in a pack of 10. They're going to be featured on the store, the safety store. Check it out. Date Rape Drug Detection Coaster. Product of the month.
Nice. That's a good one. I like that one.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartlestone. Susan would like to remind you that no absolutes exist in a crime scenario, and no advice can possibly address every variable. Each situation should be evaluated individually and responded to in the way you instinctively judge best. It's Susan's aim on this podcast to provide you with the information and options that will help you make that instinctive assessment quickly and safely. However, sometimes nothing can be done to prevent a bad outcome. And if you're already a survivor of the kind of crime we're talking about on the show today, or any other crime for that matter, please remember that there are no right or wrong responses in a criminal encounter, and nothing that happened to you was your fault. Even if you think you used bad judgment in the situation and left yourself vulnerable, that's never an excuse for a crime or violence. So please, call yourself a survivor and not a victim. And understand that with time, distance, and the proper professional help, you can put what happened into perspective and get on with your life. Now, back to Crime Prevention 101.
That show segment has some really important information and some great advice.
Absolutely. Now, I want to go back to the scenario that I read at the top of the podcast about Ken and Barbie. It's a very realistic example of a dating experience, and not just for college-age people. So, Lydia, I'm going to ask you to answer that question. What do you think? Was it a rape?
I say yes. Being forced into sexual intercourse by anyone, regardless if you're dating the person or you're in some kind of relationship, it's considered rape. You know, the key to remember here is that both parties have to consent.
Yes, that's the legal definition. And in this example, Ken and Barbie had been dating for a relatively extended period of time when Barbie believed she was forced into unwanted sexual intercourse. However, date rape can happen anytime from the first date to the 3rd year anniversary or even later.
Okay, Susan, here's a question. Does someone have an obligation to stop unwanted sexual activity, even if he or she is turned on? And to add to that, is there ever a time when no means yes or maybe?
Yeah, this is what the standard always was. If she said no, no means no. However, that has changed. The legal test for date rape now, and this is in many states, it's no longer no, but it must be a clear and unmistakable yes, I want to have sex. Both persons are supposedly have to say yes, I want it. And the person must be cogent and clear-headed enough to give consent.
Not to be drunk or drugged, right?
Absolutely. Without consent, sexual activity is legal. However, laws really vary dramatically from state to state. So you want to be aware of what the statutes are where you live. Now, alcohol happens to be the most common date rape drug. But unfortunately, the use of drugs, even pot, add a whole other dimension into the date rape mix. And drugs, when they're used unwittingly or involuntarily to ensure sexual compliance, are a devastating combo. Give us some stats, Lydia.
Yeah, research shows that nearly 11 million women in the U.S. have been raped while drunk, drugged, or high. 3 out of 4 attackers have been drinking alcohol when they sexually assaulted someone. About half of the sexual assault victims had been drinking, and 1/3 of the sexual assault cases involved date rape drugs. Most targeted age is anywhere between 18 to 24, which is your high school, college age girls. The Department of Justice estimated that 35.4% of the women in the study had been victims of drug-facilitated sexual assault.
That's really horrendous.
That's sobering.
3 out of 4 attackers had been drinking alcohol, and half of the assault victims had been drinking. So alcohol is a key culprit here. And that's why I really love the state rape drug detection coaster that we're going to be talking about. And also the really convenient date rape drug detection strips. And we talked about this briefly in the February show. And these products may help prevent a very bad outcome in a social situation. Remember what you heard from the excerpt. If you take a couple of drops, if you drink, if you had to leave it alone, maybe you went to the bathroom, maybe you were dancing, whatever, you had to leave the drink, get a couple of drops on the coaster, pull it out, whip it out, put it down, drops on there, or use the detection strips, and it will tell you if there's something in there. It can identify 2 specific date rape drugs, and it'll tell you if anything else that it can't specifically identify is in there. Now, here's the interesting thing about that. I was having breakfast with a friend, and she had heard the February podcast, and she wanted to know, how do you use this if you're on a date, as opposed to out on your own with some girlfriends drinking at a bar? I mean, how does it look if you're on a date, especially if it's the first or second date, things are looking good, maybe you're liking the person, and you have to get up and go to the bathroom, and you come back, and I got to test my drink to see if you put anything in it, right?
Yeah, not exactly fun times.
Doesn't bode well. So I said, all right, well, let's just bounce it off ourselves and see if we can come up with something. And by the way, I mentioned Guy as the attacker because the overwhelming number of date rapes do occur male on female. But I know that it happens in the reverse, and I know that it happens between same-sex couples. It's just for expediency. But in any event, whatever the dating scenario is, openly testing your drinks for drugs is a real buzzkill. So one of the things I was thinking of, if you're actually on a date, instead of just sitting around with a bunch of girlfriends, because then I wouldn't hesitate to drink, the coaster out. But if I'm on a date, I want to be a little unobtrusive about it. So here's where the strips might actually be more handy, because you could do that without the person exactly knowing what's going on. I think that's one possible scenario. And then I was also thinking you could spill a little bit of the drink if you have the coaster and not the strips. You could accidentally, and I'm putting air quotes around that, spill a little bit of the drink on the coaster and see what happens. Or if you're just in doubt and you don't have the strips, just knock your drink over and get a new drink, get a fresh drink. And that way you don't have to say, well, I'm just doing this because I want to be cautious in case you try to date rape, drug, whatever. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think those scenarios might work. I mean, you definitely don't want to piss off a nice person or ruin a date by pulling out a strip. So yeah, there's other options that you can do.
You want to stay safe, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got it. And by the way, if anyone's got a thought on this, you got a strategy, maybe something you've done, let me know. You can message us on we're everywhere. We're on social media, we're on YouTube. Let me know what your strategy was. Now, lastly, of course, sometimes, Lydia, you know that victims will take drugs intentionally, pot, alcohol, ecstasy, or other drugs. People do. And then it's very, very easy for someone to take advantage of their incapacitation. So first point, if you take your drugs voluntarily, willingly, and the worst happens, this does not mean that drinking or taking drugs voluntarily causes sexual assault or that an assault is the victim's fault. If you were coerced, that's not your fault. However, just remember, if you get drunk or stoned voluntarily and pass out or become incapacitated and you can't give cogent consent for sexual assault, well, yeah, it's the perpetrator's fault if a crime occurs, but you could take charge in this situation. You can prevent yourself from becoming incapacitated, prevent yourself from becoming vulnerable. So it's something to think about. I'm not a really big fan of drinking till you drop kind of thing. I did it and I was lucky. Nothing bad happened to me, but now a little bit wiser, I would think differently. Now, Lydia, I want to ask you another question. Let's go back to the original scenario. Mm-hmm. Can Barbie force her to have sex? Let me take this a little further. What if Barbie had gone to the campus police and said that Ken had forced her to have sex? And Ken, in his defense, said he was as drunk and high as Barbie. They took the drugs willingly. Nobody tried to pull anything over on her. That he was not cogent enough either to read the signals correctly. And that he really cared about Barbie and he never meant to hurt her. And let's say further, Ken was not a troublemaker. He was a decent student. He had no reputation for hurting other girls. He was expecting a bright future. Basically, a good guy. Is this still a rape?
You know what? That's a good question. It's I like the way you flip the script, so to speak. To me, just thinking about it, it still doesn't change the fact that Barbie did not give consent. And so in my mind, I always try to remember that both parties should consent to having sex. And of course, you have to be mentally capable of consenting.
Exactly. This is a very controversial topic. This is often referred to as gray rape, and we're going to be doing a show about gray rape because if they were both drinking and they both got drunk, nobody's cogent. Nobody could understand this, understand that. I said this, I said yes, I said no, I said maybe. There are a lot of feminists out there that say there's no such thing. It's the letter of the law. But Ken was a nice guy. He loved Barbie. He got too drunk, same as she did. So we're going to have a discussion about that later on down the line.
Clearly now, another show. Yeah.
Right. Another show. Exactly. We gave some great date/acquaintance rape tips because, again, they're not the same thing in a previous show, in our February show. But let's talk a little bit about something called angel shots.
Yes, let's. My coworker recently told me about angel shots. Apparently, they've been around since about 2015, 2016. And it's a way to covertly let the bartender know that you're either on a date that's not working out or you don't feel safe because of your date or another person's behavior. Now, there are various ways in which you can ask for an angel shot, and each way has a different meaning. So, for example, angel shot straight up and neat is code for, please, I need an escort to my car. Angel shot on ice or on the rocks is code for, please call a taxi for me. If you say angel shot with a twist or lemon or lime, is code for, I am in immediate danger, please call the police. And finally, asking the bartender to do an angel shot with you also means call the police.
And I remember this too about angel shots. 2015 seems like ancient history to me. And if you like the idea of angel shots, and I think it's just a little complicated, frankly, after I've had a couple of drinks, am I going to know to ask for it on the rocks, which is a taxi, or a lemon or lime to call the police? But I don't know how many bartenders actually know about angel shots anymore. So if you like this as an option, wherever it is that you're going to be going on this date, get there a little bit early. If it's a bar, ask the bartender, do you know about angel shots? And if I say, do an angel shot with me, just say, that's my code. I need some help. It's not working out. And I think that they would be very happy to help out with that. I don't know, again, if they don't know about it, you can set it up in advance what to do if you ask for one, whatever method you choose to ask for it. And the other thing too, if you have a favorite bar, right? You're going into Cheers, hey Norm, right? Everybody knows your name. Ask them to stock the date rape detection posters or the strips for you. So that way you wouldn't have to whip it out. It'll be under each drink automatically. And I really like that. They might be very willing to do that for their female customers. Or, again, whoever it may be. All right, Lydia, we got some resources?
Yes, we do. We have some resources for you all. So the date rape drug detection coaster or test strips are in the Crime Prevention 101 safety store at crimeprevention101.com. The Enduring Betrayal Date and Acquaintance Rape Tip Sheet can also be found at Crime Prevention 101 under Safety Tips. There's a book called I Never Called It Rape by Robin Warshaw. And this book was actually published in 1988, and then it was recently published in 2019. It's paperback, it's on Amazon, and it talks about recognizing, fighting, and surviving date and acquaintance rape. So that might be an interesting resource for you. Resources for victims of date and acquaintance rape. You can call the National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-656-HOPE, or 1-800-656-4673. And finally, there's RAIN, Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. And there you can go at RAIN, RAINN.org.
Okie dokie. All right, let's start to wrap it up. Now, I'm going to post the show links to all of those resources. They're going to be on the YouTube podcast page. They're going to be on Facebook, and my Instagram page, and of course on the crimeprevention101.com website. And by the way, you can follow the show, click through on all those sites. If you're on my YouTube page, hit the subscribe button and ring that bell, because that way you'll know anytime a new show comes about. Also, don't forget you can message me with your comments or any questions that you may have about your own personal safety issues. The email is solutions@crimeprevention101.com. And I do urge you to take a look at that Robin Warshaw book if this is a subject that's meaningful to you. That's an absolute classic. She was one of the first to really speak about date rape. All right, tell us about what's coming.
Yes. So we have some important shows coming up since we've been talking about rape both last month and this month. I think it's time to talk about ways to heal from trauma. So on our next show, we're going to feature an innovative but well-documented method to help people heal from trauma. And we want you to know all about it.
And April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, among other things. So we're going to have plenty more safety tips for preventing sexual assault. Keep an eye out. Also, we got a very, 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 very special future show coming up.
Yes, Crime Prevention 101 presents the Psychic Sherlocks. Ooh, yay! And this is where we ask our hand-picked psychics to solve cold cases, like who actually was Jack the Ripper and who really killed the Black Dahlia, and so forth. So we're going to do a Psychic Sherlock's podcast a few times in 2023. So we're very excited and we're hoping you all tune in.
Yeah, a few times, right?
Yeah, a few times throughout the year. So join us.
So exciting. So exciting. Can't wait for that. All right. As we like to say here in the Universal Dojo, it'd be a crime not to listen.
So stay tuned and stay safe.
Oh.